Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us today on our California wildfires relief webinar with the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, as well as U.S. Bank and LA County Department of Economic Opportunity. It is wonderful to be able to have them to join us today and at short notice. So I appreciate this time. I am Sarah Harris, President and CEO of the Black Business Association. We are 55 years strong in advocating for the advancement of Black and underserved businesses. We are the oldest active ethnic business support organization in the state of California. And we know that some of our members, as well as just our community being impacted today, that it was imperative to be able to get information out regarding what the resources are available to you so that we can rebuild and have even a better and brighter future coming out of this. Seeing that it was stats of in Palisades, about 54, more than 5,500 residents destroyed, and many, many more affected by it. And then in the Eaton area, it is more than about 6,000 destroyed. And so just widespread devastation on that end. So we thank you for joining us today. And I want to be able to introduce our speakers and let's see, bring them. Let's see. I will recap on those who are here today, but then bring them up one by one. So let me first up bring this in. We have from U.S. Bank. Sorry. From U.S. Bank, Ms. Delphine Pruitt, who is Vice President, Business Access Advisor with U.S. Bank, and a longtime partner with the Black Business Association. We appreciate them so much. Also, we have Ms. Kelly Lobianco, Director, LA County Department Economic Opportunity, and Ms. Julie Close, District Director, U.S. Small Business Administration. First up, we want to bring up Ms. Delphine Pruitt from U.S. Bank to provide an update on their behalf. Ms. Delphine.
Thank you, Sarah, and I'm really delighted to be here today, along with Kelly and Julie, to really provide some information that we think is going to be very informative and hopefully help you and let you know that there's are resources out here to assist those, especially those impacted by the fire. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am, my role, and then how at a U.S. Bank, we've been able to assist. As a business access advisor, I support small businesses in traditionally underserved communities to help them help them obtain the resources available to them. I advise them on how to raise capital, helping them to network with other businesses, and providing and other providers as well as customers to really help them sustain and grow their business. Now, while I do not directly offer products, what I do is I work closely with my colleagues at U.S. Bank to empower business by connecting them to the resources and the right resources and support within U.S. Bank. And then when you do come to see me and I direct you to those resources, I actually advocate and help you navigate that system from beginning to the end. So you have an advocate to work with throughout your process when you come to U.S. Bank to work with us. When needed, we can also connect them to resources, other options outside the bank, such as with SBA and LA County and community development financial institutions who also offer a full range of opportunities for growth. Our services are free. You don't have to be a U.S. bank client to be able to take advantage of working with a business access advisor. And there's about 18 of us across the country. We have 3 in LA, we have 1 in Inland Empire, San Diego, Vegas, Oakland, and then further west, further east, in Chicago and Chicago, Minneapolis. Ooh, I'm forgetting now. So many of us now. It's 18, Chicago, Minneapolis, Ohio, but again, it's 18 of us across the country. As a business access advisor, we really focus on building those meaningful relationships to meet the business owners where they are at. And we start there and coach and connect them to tools and resources to help their business move forward. So when you come see us, I initially start with a financial assessment, talk to you about where your goals are, where you want to go, help you create a roadmap, and then help you navigate that process from beginning until you reach the goals that you establish. But always remember, we're going to start with where you are at, not with what somebody think you should be doing and we think you should be doing. Is where you want to go. We're going to help you get there. Now, if you are an existing U.S. bank customer, then if you having need assistance, you've been impacted by the fires, we have a website, usbank.com. If you do /disaster relief. Again, usbank.com//disaster relief. And on that, we provide all the resources we can provide, whether you're a homeowner, whether you're a business owner, or a client individual. If you go to their website, it lists all the resources there. And if you do, I'm going to direct you to those resources because it's a fact sheet with questions and who to contact and where to go for assistance. Since the fires have had a tremendous impact on our community here in LA County, we really feel as a bank that we want to be able to contribute and help. So several things we did. We contribute money to $100,000 to United Way initially. We also supported the fire relief concert that just happened. And then also we enlisted myself and other business access advisor to work with those who might need assistance to help them navigate. And many of them spoke about the programs at SBA, that's why Julie is here. And while we can help you outside of fire relief, is SBA related, you're looking for financing as it relates specifically to the fire relief, we want you to go directly to the source, and that would be SBA. And then you're going to hear about some wonderful programs that LA County have. And I just went through a bunch of them last week and read a huge announcement with the city of LA. Now, I'm not going to jump her gun, but they have some great programs there as well, too. And last, I want to thank Sarah again, because Sarah and I have been getting calls and talking to clients back and forward. And she and I was talking since the fire started. We both know individuals have been personally impacted by the fires. And so first, and although we have not, but knowing individuals who have and what they're going through, we try to figure out a way, what is it that we can do? And I said, Sarah, we got to do something, because a lot of folks don't know that my services are free in terms of helping you navigate the process of your business, whether it's raising capital, other resources, someone to coach you through. But when the fires came, it was so devastating, and we were getting so many calls, and we just thought this would be a perfect opportunity to share those resources with others. So I'm here to help. But now I'm going to stop right there and talk to the folks who got a lot of great information, but knowing that here at US Bank, we're here to help as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delphine. We appreciate that. And I put the link in the chat regarding usbank.com/disaster relief so that you can refer to that. And we will continue to partner in ways that we can be of service to you. Next up, would love to bring on is Ms. Julie Close for the presentation on behalf of the SBA, and I will load your deck.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you to you and Delphine for helping to assemble this webinar. We do appreciate the opportunity to get the information out to people. I'm happy to be connected with everyone that's here today. If you have been directly impacted by these wildfires and winds, I'm really sorry to hear about that. And my team and I are local to LA, and so we have seen the devastation, and we are wholeheartedly committed to helping the community bounce back, build back better, become strong and more resilient to future natural disasters or other issues that may arise. For SBA, you may see a lot of SBA people out and about in the community. So my team is here, but we also are supplemented right now by a disaster surge team. So those are the men and women you usually see in the blue jackets with the SBA logos that are at the resource centers, and are also staffing. We're appearing at a lot of pop-up events and other activities, really all with the trying to get the word out. And we actually have a customer service team that's at their centers and other locations that can actually sit down and work with you one-on-one to complete an application if you'd like that one-on-one assistance. So if we go to the first slide. I'm going to start by just kind of framing the disaster assistance. Now, we're going to spend a lot of time talking specifically about the disaster programs, but I do want to remind people that all of our core programs are available to assist at this time. And in particular, I always like to highlight our business advising assistance. So if you are a business owner and want to work with an advisor at no charge to you, they'd be happy to sit down and kind of go through your scenario, see how you've been impacted, and help you find your path forward. I know it can be a bit overwhelming right now, all this information. So I do recommend sitting with a business advisor if you want someone to just kind of help you through this process, help you figure out your strategy and the best path forward for you. But this declaration is out, and it covers the wildfires and the winds. So I like to point that out because it covers everybody within LA County. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, are you just covering, people in the actual burn areas? And the answer is no. Anybody in Los Angeles County can be eligible for these loan programs. And in addition, if you're in a contiguous county to LA, you can be eligible for our economic injury disaster loan program. I do want to start out by highlighting also that we do have deadlines for application for these programs. And there's one that's coming up next month. And it's going to be here, I think, before we know it. So I do like to mention that for the physical disaster loans, and I will show you what those are on the next slide, but we have a deadline of March 10th. So I want to just have people be cognizant of that deadline because we do encourage you to apply. And if we go to the next slide, we can talk about the 3 different programs that are available under the SBA disaster loan portfolio. We do encourage businesses and homeowners or renters or nonprofits to apply for assistance. Even though we have business in our name, this is the one instance where we are available to help everybody. And I do encourage people to apply, even if they're not sure that they want the loan yet, because if you apply and you're approved, you don't have to take the loan at the end of the day. You can say no, thank you, and there's nothing negative or punitive about that. But with these deadlines coming up kind of quickly, we want to make sure that people preserve access to this resource so that 3 months from now, nobody comes back and says, oh, I wish I would have applied. Better to preserve your ability to tap into this resource, and it's okay if you change your mind later and decide you don't want it. But when we look at, you'll see the 2 that are highlighted in red here, homeowners and businesses. Those are what we call the physical loans, and that's where the deadline for March 10th applies. So I'm going to start with the home. So we do have loans available to homeowners and to renters to cover your private real estate and private property or personal property. And this is anything that's damaged by the disaster or completely destroyed that you need to replace. And these are typically things that insurance will not cover. The same holds true then if we look at the business side. For businesses of all sizes, it can be you can be larger than a small business and still qualify. So if you've lost, if you're a business owner and have lost your real estate, if you own your facility, your property, or anything inside the business, looking at machinery, equipment, inventory, fixtures, anything inside the business is eligible. And this is for businesses of all sizes and nonprofit organizations. And then the third one we have, which became very well known during the pandemic, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL. And this is different in that it's working capital. So this is for businesses that may have been physically impacted, but may not. And they have been impacted economically. And there's lots of reasons why this happens, right? You might not be in the burn zone or that area. Your business may be intact as far as fire and wind damage, but maybe your customers were affected and now you've had to cancel contracts, or you've lost customers in that sense. Maybe your employees were impacted and you've not been able to operate your business normally, and so your revenue's been impacted that way. Maybe road closures and other things have impacted your business. So for whatever reason that the fire and or the wind events have impacted your business and you no longer are able to pay kind of your ordinary business expenses, like rent or lease, or a mortgage or utilities or payroll, whatever expenses you have in your business, that's what the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Fund is, to help you cover those expenses for a short period of time as we go through this recovery and hopefully get your business back to earning its normal revenue. If we go to the next slide, we kind of see the same information, but represented in a little different form. And this slide will also show you the maximum loan amounts and the interest rates. Now, the interest rates are a spectrum. So what I've represented on this slide is actually the low end. And you'll see for home loans right now, these loans can be as low as 2.563%. And even for businesses as low as 4%, and for nonprofits as low as 3.624%. So this is a great program to explore because the interest rates are much better than you'll find in commercial, conventional means right now. The other thing I want to point out that you'll see on here is mitigation. So mitigation is not a separate loan product by itself, but is something that can be added on, or is an enhancement to the home loans and the business loans. So what this is a ability to use a portion of the loan proceeds to help you kind of build back better, fortify that structure. So if you've been just damaged, or even if it's been destroyed, when you build back, you might want to take some mitigation factors into account. And that can be for anything. It doesn't have to just be against fire hardening. It can be earthquake retrofitting. It can be retaining walls that maybe need to support the property. Whatever you need that's going to help fortify and make your business structure stronger when you build it back. The next slide, please. So just a few other terms and conditions that people typically ask about. Right now, there is a 12-month deferral on interest and payments for these loans, and that's from the date of first disbursement. So if you're going for a home loan, for example, you may not want to take your disbursement initially as soon as you get approved, because we know we can't start rebuilding tomorrow. We have to wait for debris removal, etc. So you might want to talk to your customer service representative or your case manager that you're assigned to SBA and say, hey, how long can I wait before I take a disbursement? Because you'll kind of want to wait till you can start actually utilizing the funds, or getting closer to a point in time when you can utilize the funds. And then that's going to extend your 12-month runway too. So you can see it gives you even a longer cushion before you need to think about repaying back on these loans. These loans are to cover uninsured losses. So if you have insurance, we will cover the things that insurance will not cover. But that said, you don't have to have your insurance information already settled or have their offer in order to apply. SBA will work with the insurance companies on the back end to make sure that there's no duplication of benefits. But it's not a reason. I know insurance companies can sometimes take a long time to get all the information and know what they're going to cover or not cover. So I don't want you to think you have to wait for that information in order to apply. The loan terms can be as long as 30 years. For real estate, it often will go to 30 years, but it could be anywhere from 0 to 30 years, depending on the type of loan and the amount you're borrowing. And if you have prior SBA debt, that's okay. You can still get an additional loan. And I also like to point out that FEMA and SBA require two different sets of applications, but there's no order of approval. So you can go to one or the other first. You can do them both at the same time, either online or at a resource center. And if we go to the next slide. So the application is actually 100% online. But that said, you can also use one of our customer service centers to apply in person. We have a whole cadre of people. There's a slide at the end that I'll show you that has the dates and times and locations. So if you want to come in and sit with somebody as they will register you in our system and then start the application. The application itself is pretty straightforward. You don't even have to have any documentation to do the application. That said, SBA will probably come back to you after they receive the application and ask maybe for some additional information, or they may ask for some clarifying questions. So if you do apply, I also recommend people check your email, check it regularly, once a day at least, and look for that communication from SBA. Check your spam filter just in case it got caught up in there. But because the faster that you're able to respond to SBA, the faster your loan can actually be processed. And I think the next slide, I give you some visuals to show you what the portal looks like. So it is the My SBA loan portal. So if you have prior SBA debt from disaster or 7A or 504, you could already be in the system because everybody now has access through this portal when they register to see all of their own loan information. So if you're already registered, that's great. You can just log in and apply for the disaster assistance. If you've never signed up, then you can go ahead and register. It takes about 10 minutes to register, and then you can begin the application. So the next slide, I think, is just another visual to show you the registration. So pretty straightforward there. And then the next slide, this is a list of currently where the centers are, where we have SBA staff available, customer service representatives to sit and work with you, answer questions, actually complete applications. You will see the top two, Altadena and the UCLA Research Park West, are the big disaster recovery centers with FEMA and with also the local, a lot of state, county and city government offices as well. I call them like the mega centers because you can get help with a lot of things, reconstituting documents if you need to, and lots of other resources, Red Cross, etc. The other locations, the other 5 locations are SBA only, but they are available on a walk-in or appointment basis. And I think the last slide is just different ways to contact the SBA on the disaster side specifically, whether you want to bridge in person, if you want to email, if you want to call. These are the various ways to reach the disaster team specifically. And then I will also drop how to reach my team in the chat with our email box so that if you have questions, whether it's about this or any other programs of SBA, you can reach out to us as well. And then I'll wait for questions later. Thank you.
Well, we have questions.
Okay.
They've been popping up. So the first one we have is, are citizens only eligible here in California?
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. For this program, yes, you do have to be a U.S. citizen.
Okay. I think they said only eligible here in California. So do they have to be a California resident? I guess is the question.
Well, they need to be in the disaster in LA County, basically.
Right,
So
right.
we don't check, to see if you have California residency, but if you're renting or if you bought a house or your business is located in LA County, you would be eligible.
Wonderful. Okay. Next question. Hi. For questions regarding SBA IDL and home disaster loan, does SBA look at ability to pay by the combining both the business income and W-2 to qualify for both loans? In other words, if SBA already awarded the max for the home disaster loan based on my income, which includes the W-2 and profit from business, then I won't be able to get the IDL since all of my income has already been used to calculate for the home disaster loan. Does that
So
make sense?
they will take a look at ability to repay because we certainly don't want anybody to get into a situation where they have taken on more debt than they can, possibly afford. But that said, you can combine programs. And so they are going to look at the totality of circumstances. So if you are a Schedule C filer, for example, on your business, and that's how you're reporting your business income, and you're applying for a home loan and an idle, they will take all of that into consideration and looking at what you can afford under each of the programs. And then also for the home and the business loans, they will be looking at the extent of the loss, the disaster damage, the value of the properties and that kind of stuff too. So that's all going to factor into what people are eligible for. So it's not this straightforward formula, unfortunately. They'll look at each individually and then they'll probably aggregate it. But it should be itemized as I understand it for each to show you like this is what you can qualify for under home loan. This is what you can qualify for under idle. And you will have the ability to talk to a customer service agent, or at some point in the process, people are being assigned a case manager. I'm not sure if that's after approval, but those are great people to ask your questions about if you're not sure how the calculation is being made. And then if you get questions from SBA, they might just be looking for more information to make sure that they're getting the maximum to you that you can qualify for. That's always the goal, is to be able to provide the maximum amount to offer you the maximum amount of loan that you can qualify for. Here's the other thing, you can always take less. So if SBA offers you, 300,000 and you only want, 200, that's okay. You can ask for less.
Okay. See, what is the approval rate for SBA loans, and does it also rely on FICO? And then I kind of also like to add is if you received an idle loan in the past, if you received the idle assistance in the past, such as COVID, are you still eligible?
Yes, so you are eligible if you have prior assistance, as long as if you have damage based on these winds and fire events that occurred starting in January. The loan approval rate, it's hard to tell you, but because it literally every day it's changing as more applications are received, processed, and approved. So it's hard for me to give you a percentage. And then for the loans, depending on where you are, the home loans, they're definitely going to look at your credit score. They usually use Experian as the company that they pull the credit scores from. And then also on the business side, they may be looking at, we have other business scores that we can look at as it's not really a credit score per se, but other scores that we use in our 7A and 504 lending side that they can also tap into to look at some of the repayment ability. I will say that's not the only factor though. So if you are anxious about your credit score or anything like that, or if you have, I've had people ask me like, oh, I had, an emergency that happened in my life right before the fires, and I know my credit score took a hit. Those are factors that SBA will take into consideration. You will have an ability to explain that. If you can explain the situation and show that prior to this emergency or whatever situation, your credit score was stronger. Those are all things that the loan processing team will take into consideration.
We have some more questions, but we'll do a few more, but I want to give time for our next presentation, then we'll come back to some more at the end. How much and what kind of records for use of funds do I need to keep after obtaining IDL or home disaster loan? It's very hard to keep records while we are being dispersed.
So your loan agreement should tell you what kind of documents that SBA may, or what kind of records, I should say, that SBA may ask for in the future. one thing I recommend for people on the front end, and that could just be a simple Excel spreadsheet, or some, even by hand, if that's the best way to track it for now, is to monitor the different sources of funds you may be accessing, whether it's your insurance, whether it's SBA loans, whether it's from FEMA, a GoFundMe campaign, the county grant that Kelly's going to talk about, is to avoid the duplication of assistance. Duplication is what we're really focused on. So if you say, I got this amount of funds from this source, and this is what I used it for. I got these funds from this source, and this is what I used it for. We know between your insurance and SBA, you're probably still likely to have some gaps. And that's where like these grant programs or a GoFundMe or other things are great to help fill in these gaps. And we expect that. So my recommendation is always just keep a little inventory. It may not have to be super detailed. If you have receipts from things, all the better, but I would try to keep an inventory of what money you received and how you were spending it, just to show that you're not duplicating efforts. Anything in your business, obviously, and hopefully you're keeping business records. If they were destroyed, that's one thing, but from moving forward, hopefully you are keeping that. So for EIDL, for example, be your normal business records. For home disaster loan, between whatever your insurance company might require, an SBA is really just going to want to see that you didn't duplicate using the funds for, didn't use the funds for the same source from both insurance and for SBA.
The last one, and before the next presentation, then we'll come back to your questions. And somebody asked regarding the recording for this. Yes, we'll provide the link to that. I'm combining two. If you are using the SBA loan to rebuild your home, what kind of supporting documentation do you have to provide to obtain disbursement? And then also, typically how long does it take for the SBA to make a decision?
The decision process, it's hard to give a timeline because it really depends on how many are in the queue before your application, because they process them on a first come, first served basis. And then if SBA reaches out to you for more information, and if you're not able to respond right away, that will add to the time. So it is hard to give a definitive answer on that side. But the documentation, again, I would look at your loan documentations once you get an approval, and that should outline for you what they may need to see, if anything, throughout this process.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. There are a few more questions, but we will come back to them. Want to be able to bring up our next speaker, Ms. Kelly Lobianco, from the LA County Department of LA County Department of Economic Opportunity.
Thank you, Sarah. And am I able to, I don't know if I can share yet.
Let me give you that now.
Thank you. And while Sarah's doing that, I just want to thank you for having us today. Really, really appreciate it. Sarah serves on our Small Business Commission, which is a key advisory body to the LA County Department of Economic Opportunity and LA County generally. So we appreciate your service there and inviting us today. And obviously, Julie and Delphine, these are great partners in crisis and always. And so appreciate you and all that you're doing to support everyone with the wind and wildfires right now. And for folks on the call, I know you're here because either you've been impacted or the communities you're part of or serving in some way have been impacted. And so my heart's out to you. And also just know that we're going to be here for you now and along the road to recovery, because we know we need to build a more fire resilient county, but we also need to make sure that we preserve our local communities and culture. And that is first and foremost a priority for the county as we rebuild. Okay, here we go. I think. And folks, are you seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. You're not seeing my email or something. Okay, great. You're welcome to. It's a mess in there. All right. So this, we are the Department of Economic Opportunity. Let me give you a quick intro to us if you don't know us. We are a almost 3-year-old department. We're the county's economic development agency, and we do a lot of things. Our customers are workers, small businesses, major industries, and communities. We're here to support inclusive and sustainable growth in the region, making sure that there's opportunity and mobility for every single LA County resident, all 10 million of you, as well as support for our small business community, knowing that we have over 250,000 small businesses, and if you add sole proprietors, we're looking at 1 million. We are an economy that is driven by a local and diverse workforce, and we are an economy driven by a vibrant small business community, and we also boast some of the biggest global powerhouse industries in the world. And so we're a major country when it comes to economy, but we also have a lot of, we're 88 cities, we're 100 unincorporated areas plus. And, within that, there are neighborhoods and villages, and there's a lot that brings us together, which you've seen in the wake of the fires, but also a lot of uniqueness. And so you see that whether you're looking at the Palisades or Altadena or the other burn zones. And so the department really is here to think about how do we uplift all communities together and meeting unique needs. And we do that in a lot of ways, whether it's setting economic strategy, whether it's through jobs and training through our 18 America's Job Centers of California, through entrepreneurship and small business development, through our Office of Small Business. We help folks get access to public sector contracting by certifying them and supporting at the local, state, and federal level. We think about how to bolster our industries. We want more folks to invest here in LA County, so we are thinking about business attraction and tourism. And we also do a lot of placemaking. So as well as thinking about an individual job seeker or worker or individual small business, we also are thinking about how do we, bolster commercial corridors, and how do we take vacant commercial properties and county properties, those assets, and revitalize them for community use. So you'll see us, doing job training with partners. You'll see us supporting entrepreneurism, and you'll see us building affordable housing and mixed-use spaces. Okay. In the wake of the emergency over the last 30 days, we know there's a lot of noise out there. It's hard to find information. So at least for the county, we've put up a website that we update every day. You can even see that they put this little screen in here where they're actually updating it. But this bit.ly will take you right there. You can also go to our website, opportunity.lacounty.gov, or just Google Department of Economic Opportunity, and a pop-up will come up on the actual page. What you have there are a one-stop shop for all of the county emergency warnings and preparedness information. We have up-to-date events and webinars. So if this one's on there, and so like if Julie is hosting something or somebody else, you'll be able to find it. We also have resources for small businesses and workers by topic area. We're, like I said, updating it daily. There's a lot of information coming online. We have connection to our technical assistance providers. Julie mentioned the small business development centers and staff who are at the ready to help you with the loans. We have our Office of Small Business. The city has business source centers. And we, as a county, invest in a lot of amazing community-based organizations and CDFIs who can work with you to access any resources you need in your relief and recovery, because I think that's the biggest takeaway I want folks to leave with is don't do this alone. It's going to be a journey. Some of this can be complicated because we're government, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be here for you to make sure we get it right. And so take advantage of some of those services. And we also list the new programs that we're launching. Julie mentioned this, but you'll find us at the disaster recovery centers. So we're at UCLA and Altadena 7 days a week. We have been since launch earlier last month. We're there 9 to 7 p.m. I won't get into it. If you have been, hopefully it's been helpful. If you haven't been, these mega events are a great space to basically see every local, state, and federal partner that could support you with big setups for SBA and FEMA. We, as the department, come with our job centers, our Office of Small Business. We bring BedSatic and Public Counsel who run a legal aid for small business program with us pro bono, no cost. And we also bring LAEDC, our partner in layoff aversion. So we know that as businesses are trying to figure this out, it's a challenge to maintain staff. And so we help think through that process. And also we have a very close relationship, obviously, with SBA, but also our Employment Development Department. So we want to make sure that folks get relief quickly and we coordinate those efforts. So some resources for businesses. This is a fancy one that's got lots. Let me populate it all. Okay. Ooh. I won't go into all of the loans because Julie just did a great job with that. But we do want to make sure you're listening clearly to the due dates. It's important to sign up. There are other loans at the state level and community level. There's some here. We can share this deck afterwards, but you can also find all of this on our website that I just mentioned. We also know that loans can be tough, right? Because they require payback and some folks' futures are unknown right now, and that can be daunting. So and they might not cover everything. So I encourage folks to talk to our technical assistance advisors on like what is the right capital that you need to do what you need to do right now to maintain and to build back. We have launched 2 grant programs, and there are other grant programs out there. And so we do encourage folks to take a look at those and just keep in the back of your mind duplicative use, right? The grant program I'm going to describe to you does not have any required eligible use. You can use it for whatever you need. And we did that intentionally because we want you to be able to use it as you need it and not duplicate use for SBA and FEMA. Because we know that folks need a lot to become whole, and we don't want to get in the way of that. All right, so the loans that we have launched, the LA Region Small Business and Worker Relief Funds. We launched these 6 days ago on February 6th. These are 2 grant funds, so you do not need to pay them back. The Department of Economic Opportunity is working with LA City's Economic and Workforce Development Department, as well as SoCal Grantmakers and a third-party administrator called AidKit to launch 2 programs. They sort of look like they're together now, but they are 2 separate ones. So there's one for small businesses and nonprofits, and there's one for workers. The Small Business and Nonprofit Fund essentially supports businesses and nonprofits in the fire, evac order, and evac warning zones who have been directly impacted by the wind and wildfires starting on the first week of January. So you have to live in LA County. You have to have your business, whether it's home-based or brick and mortar, located in one of those 3 zones. You have to be 100 employees or less, or 6 million in revenue or less. And that's basically the eligibility, and you have to have been impacted. You have the opportunity to be eligible for a grant between $2,000 and $25,000. So essentially, if your brick and mortar has been unfortunately destroyed by the wind and wildfires, you're going to be eligible for up to a $25,000 grant. Partially destroyed, it sort of tiers down from there. Home-based businesses are eligible for between $2,000 and $5,000. So say you have just revenue impact or just inventory impact, you are eligible for the program. Where money available, we will fund everybody who's been impacted. Prioritization will go for those that had maximum destruction in the wind and wildfires. But we encourage folks to apply because we're still fundraising for these funds. And so we have an opening period between the 6th and the 24th for the funds. Doesn't mean we won't reopen it later, just FYI. I think we're just being cognizant right now of the funds that we have available. And we will start getting grants out by the 2nd week of March. The Worker Relief Fund is essentially if your place of business, whether it's a commercial space or a residential home, we know folks have different kind of work environments, and you have lost either your job or income due to the windstorms and the wildfires. you can be eligible for a $2,000 grant from the Worker Relief Fund. Essentially you have to be an LA County resident. You don't have to live in the fire or evac order and warning zones, but your place of work had to be in that area. You have to be 18 years of age. And pretty limited eligibility criteria, to be honest, because we want folks whose income have been impacted to be able to apply in the most expansive way possible. These are all open here through lacounty.gov/relief. We actually now have a dedicated website that I'll make sure we put in the chat too. If you go to LA County Relief, you can click a button and it takes you there, but laregionfund.lacounty.gov is the standalone website. I'll put it in the chat, and that is where you can go to apply now. One thing to be aware of is that we have 2 webinars this afternoon, I believe at 5 p.m. There is a webinar in English and Spanish on the Worker Fund, and then tomorrow evening it's on the Small Business Fund. But if you go to a disaster recovery center, if you go to an America's Job Center of California, a Work Source Center, a Family Source Center, or a Business Source Center, frankly, a whole bunch of our funded partners, and you can find their names on the fund website, you can get one-on-one technical assistance to apply. And we encourage that. We have guides in many languages. We'll have the webinars recorded. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for folks to be able to apply. And I'll just say we consider this relief. We know we need to marshal in more resources for recovery. So this really is to bridge a gap right now, whether folks are applying for loans and there's a gap, whether they may not be eligible for loans or may not have insurance to cover things. This is an opportunity to have some flexible cash available now, thanks to both county and philanthropic partners. Just a couple other things. I know we don't have a lot of time and I want to open up for questions, and that was my big announcement, but this deck, which we'll share around, has CDFIs here as well. So these are other partners that can help with your capital planning. We have launched a business-to-business space share. So if you've lost space during the emergency, we have folks that are donating space onto this Craigslist-like platform. So they're listing their space, and the availability of it, it's all donated, and we'll facilitate a connection. So you can browse listings if you've been impacted. We'll facilitate a match, and you can have a conversation if there's an opportunity to leverage a cubicle or a warehouse or some other space needs. We have a free legal aid program with Betzetic and Public Counsel. Like I mentioned, we encourage folks to take advantage, talk to a lawyer. It's helpful to just get some guidance and advice. They're at the disaster recovery centers with us. You can find them there, but you can also connect to their hotline in this email and get set up with an appointment. We also have an Office of Small Business. So this small business are DEO employees, so you can connect with them, set up an appointment. They'll talk through various options that you have. They can get you signed up for the loan fund directly. They can make sure that you're well connected with SBA and others. They're on the list of technical assistance providers, so we encourage folks to take advantage. But we are really working closely with all of our partners. So if you go to an SBDC with Julie, they're going to tell you about some of the things we offer and vice versa. So we're trying to make it a no wrong door. So just reach out. We've got some flyers that we'll share around that have all of these partners stuff on it, which is great. We're putting it up on our website as well. And then the last thing really, really quickly for workers, because I know this is a business focused endeavor, is that there are some worker focused grants, including ours. Here's some, they're on the website. You can go to our job centers as well as the disaster recovery centers to talk about your immediate hiring and training needs, either as a business or a worker. We've got some temporary job opportunities coming soon for the relief cleanup. So if you know folks that have lost their job or income that might want to connect with our partners at Public Works or Public Health or others who are going to do direct cleanup and or humanitarian outreach, we'll pay for the credentialing, we'll pay for wages, and folks will be able to help us in the recovery effort. That's coming soon in the next couple of weeks. But the big thing I want to mention is people should sign up for unemployment insurance here, but know that disaster unemployment assistance is available. So if you're not typically eligible for unemployment insurance, if you are a self-employed or you're a small business owner or your business doesn't pay into the UI system, you might be eligible for up to $450 a week now. And so we're encouraging people to get to apply. Again, disaster recovery center's got everything. You can walk into a job center with the DEO and we'll get you signed up too. But we encourage folks who might think they don't have access to this, that they might right now. And that's it. I'll go ahead and stop there. But Sarah, I'll send this to you so you can send this to the group after as well. And we'll take questions. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and reclaim back so that I can monitor on this. Sorry. All right, there we go. So thank you, everybody. We do have some questions. One of the questions I guess can kind of go for both is about my business did not burn down, but yet still impacted in, exponential ways. What are how are they able to qualify or benefit from some of these resources? I would give that to both you, Julie and Kelly.
Yeah, I can go quickly first. So all of the resources that I've mentioned are eligible for all impacts. So if folks have just had revenue loss, no problem, right? Like that, our resources are free and available to everyone. And even the fund I mentioned does allow for folks who've just had revenue loss within the eligible areas to apply. And all of our resources will let you know where there might be, eligibility criteria here or there, but for the most part, if you need that pro bono legal assistance, you've got it. You can want to apply to the LA Region Fund, you can. And I think the same goes for Julie, but I'll pass it over to her.
Yes, so that's where the economic injury disaster loan or the EIDL loan is the one that I would consider. It's exactly for that case where a business maybe didn't have the physical damage, but they certainly have been affected by the fires and they have, lost revenue or lost the ability to earn revenue for, probably one of dozens of reasons, right? Their customers are impacted, so maybe they had to cancel contracts and there's lots of reasons. So yes, I would consider the EIDL program because that is working capital and it can help you sustain, for a period of time, hopefully pay your bills until we can get you back to a point where you're earning your, more normal revenue, hopefully.
Wonderful, wonderful. I see one more in here for SBA. What should I do if my SBA loan was denied for not having tax returns for my business yet? Our business is new and it was very profitable until the disasters happened.
Yep, I've been trying to answer some of these in the chat too, but essentially, if you were
Good.
if you were operational, you have to have been pretty much operational, but before January 7th of this year. So if you've been in business for less than a year, so you haven't had an opportunity to file tax returns yet, that's okay because you still obviously suffered losses, whether it's economic or otherwise. And so I would look at other sources of documents. It's hard without knowing the specifics of a situation, and I don't want anybody to disclose, their private information on this call necessarily, but I would look at things like your business formation documents. So whether you're LLC or sole proprietor, however you formed, you should have something that shows I'm in business. This is when I formed. This is when I started operations or began my existence. And then I'd also look at doing financial statements. So you would have an opening balance sheet, for example, right? And then all the way up through the date of the fires. So I would look at creating, if you don't have them already, recreating those financial statements to show what you've been doing as far as revenue and cost of goods sold, if that's applicable to you, and other things. So those are the top two things that I would make sure that you have, but without knowing more specifics about the scenario, there may be other things that I would recommend in certain cases. This is also a great opportunity for your business, for the business owners to work with an advisor. Both Kelly and I have talked about the different networks of advisors. They can sit down and kind of go through, they'll understand your specific situation and help you figure out which documents are best to show to demonstrate to SBA, because we don't have tax returns, but let's look at all the other documents we do have that'll tell the story and show the economic impact to you, whether it's just economic impact or total business loss or anything in between.
Wonderful. So as we close out, that was a good segue in terms of a business advisor. I wanted to bring Delphine up to see if she had any closing remarks and to address anything that was asked as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. You start hearing a fire alarm. They testing in the building. I'm on the road, and this building is being tested. So I had to make sure I get off before, and it's been going on all day. It's not going to end for another hour. But I do want to say that the takeaways that I heard here from Julie and Kelly, tremendous amount of resources. The one thing I would encourage everyone to do, don't worry about, I don't know if I qualify, I don't know, call regardless. Don't stop there and thinking might have interpreted differently. It's always good to contact them directly to look at that. And in terms of coaching or advisor or going through this process, sometimes an empathetic ear, by all means, contact me and my information. You can schedule appointments. You can go to US Bank. You can Google US Bank, Access Business, and it'll pull up the page and you'll see all these business access advisors. So feel free to contact me. You can just schedule an appointment through that system. So I'll let her put that in the email, but I just will encourage everyone. Two things, another thing, I'm sorry, more than two things. And I'm gonna get off. March the 10th, important date with SBA to submit. Make sure that you review all the documentation. If you are going to submit, you need to do the first round by March the 10th. From Kelly, grants are now available. Came out on February 6th. Go in there and make sure and see if you qualify. Lastly, most importantly, is fire and wind. If you have fire and wind damage and you're in LA County and you've been impacted, contact them directly or feel free to contact me. I'm gonna take this and I'll write the number down as well and keep all the links. So if someone contact me and they're not sure they didn't make it here, by all means, I'm gonna have that information to share and add it to my list of resources as well. And so again, please reach out and don't wait, don't hesitate, speak to someone there. That you can work with small business centers, as they mentioned, but definitely contact the SBA or LA County regarding grants as well as loans to assist you. And I thank you so much, Kelly and Julie, because this was a quick turnaround, and especially Sarah for hosting and bringing everybody together. I really like to thank you for taking the time to share this information today. We could have gone on for hours, with a lot of information questions. We appreciate you taking the time out to do this, and me as well.
There is definitely a lot to impact, and thank you so much for Kelly and Julie and responding in the chat to some of these questions and everything, because people I mean, they needed this opportunity to connect with you. If there is, did we miss anybody? I want to make sure nobody's question was left unanswered. The chat started getting a little kind of crazy to follow. But if there's not anything left over, I just wanted to say that thank you for joining us today. Please stay in touch with the BBA. The Black Business Association is here to serve and be of assistance. We are reached at bbala.org, and we will continue to disseminate the information as it comes in with our partners here today and others. So if that is it, I say thank you again to Kelly, Julie, and Delphine. You guys are amazing. And we just wish and pray and that everybody is, at the end of the day, is whole again. That's the goal for everybody. So, all right, we'll give you back the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us.